Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I am Mr. Kadim Khan and I am a lecturer in the Institute of Computing, Quart University of Science and Technology. Today we will take lecture number 18 of the subject of Object-Oriented Analysis and Design, in which we have to discuss the strings and AWT components in Java. And here the topics of discussion are JFrames, JLabels and JButtons controls. Dear students, in the previous lectures we have discussed the different UML diagrams. Now we will provide you the quick implementations in the Java for different the strings and AWT components so that you gain programming practice with these strings and AWT components, and later then we will switch to the different UMLs diagrams that we will create in the technology like visual paradigms or in the lunar eclipse. So here we are discussing the Java concepts for the JFrame, JLabel and JButtons controls. This is the discussion agenda. It contains the topics of Netscape windows with the GUI components. Here we will give you the examples of the Netscape windows. Then we have the graphical user interface in Java. So here we will discuss how the GUI components are arranged in the interface for the representing the computer's user interactions. Then we have GUI introductions. Then we have the Java x.swing.starx package. Here we will discuss important components of this Java x.swing.starx package. Then we will discuss different controls used for GUI development in Java. These are very much important controls. Then we have the strings features, and here we will discuss JFrames in Java with the examples, JLabels in Java with the code examples, JButtons in Java with the code and programming examples, and at the end we have the implementing multiple JButtons. So this is the discussion agenda of today's topic. Now this is the Netscape windows with the GUI components. You can see this is a Netscape web browser. Here are different controls on the top of this web browser. For example, this is the buttons. These buttons will enable a user to switch between different pages. For example, go back or go forward. Also, we have some menus here like file menus, edit menus, view, go, bookmarks, tools, windows, and help menus. The menus are exactly like the buttons, but these are drop-down menus, because to save the space over the windows, we use the menus. This is the menu bar where we use different sort of the menus. For example, help menu is added inside of this menu bar. Also, we have the combo box. Combo box is also a drag drop selections controls where you can select one of the exact items inside of the combo box. And here is the scroll bar. This is the scroll bar where you can go up or down inside a page, and this is also a horizontal scroll bar where you can browse this page by browsing this page to the left side or right side. And this scroll bar is in fact the vertical scroll bar where you can go up or down here. So this web browser gives you a complete idea about the graphical user interface components. Now we will implement these controls in these lectures. For example, some controls like buttons and labels in this lecture, and also we will implement some other control in the upcoming lectures. This is the graphical user interface, that is the GUI in Java. First of all, we have the AWT control. AWT containers or controls is an abstract windowing toolkit control. These controls will help you to create a window. So on the top of that, we have AWT frames, which contains another controls. Next important controls, which is very much simple, is called the label. This is the components or GUI controls which only point out or help out users to use the window. For example, counter 18. So that means that this is some number 18 which represent the counter of the customers. Now here is the text fields. The text fields is used to take the input or to display the output. And this is the buttons controls, and the button controls help the user to click on it so that some important functionality are performed. For example, click on this count buttons to count the number of users. So when you click here, then it will display the 18, that this is the 18 number user. So this is a simple example of the graphical user interface in GUI. Now what is the GUI in the different text? The GUI is also called user interface or completely graphical user interface. It represents the pictorial interface of a software or a program. So all these components are represented in the form of the pictorial or picture ways, like buttons is a picture, similarly label is one of the picture and also another controls. So providing different programs with a consistent set of this intuitive user interface components, the user can interact with these controls by clicking with them. So the programs will enable us to click or to perform certain actions or the events over these controls. So the purpose of this control is to reduce the user time. The user time is the time required to use the softwares. Also, it reduces the learning times of the program or interface. So this improves the ability to use these programs and also increase the productivity of the user. So in less amount of time, we will produce more functionalities by using graphical user interface. Graphical user interface gives us look and feel. Means that when we look over a graphical user interface, we understand or we feel that this software will provide certain functionalities. When we look over the GUI, then we feel that this GUI contains some important processing or programs. So it also provides the basic level of familiarity. Means that the text commands are very difficult to learn. Also, there are chances for some spellings mistakes. But when we use the GUI, we can easily use that software. The GUI are built from different controls, also called the components, like controls and widgets. These are the built-in controls. Also, we can design our own controls. And these components or controls or widgets are used to interact with them so that the user use the products. And we can use the GUI with some mouse click. Also, we can type some key functions. For example, when we perform some typing, then the GUI will interact with us. Java contains very important package called javax.swings.starx package. This is the swing package which contains most of the controls, and these controls are used as a building blocks to create the graphical user interface. So the components become the standards in Java with these controls, and these controls are released in Java 2 platform version 1.2. And these components are the parts of the Java Foundation class, that is the GFC. The GFC contains all these controls as a classes. We have JLabel, JText fields, JButtons, JCheckbox, JCombo box, and JList and JPanels controls, which are used to create the graphical user interface components. We will cover all of them in our lectures. Swings controls contains about the 18 different packages and 737 classes in the JDK 1.8. So these are most important controls which are used to develop the graphical user interface. As compared to the abstract Windows toolkit controls, the Sphinx provides large amount of the collection of reusable graphical user interface components which are here shown. But abstract windowing toolkit controls are those controls which provides the containers for these the swing controls. That is, the abstract window toolkit controls are used as a foundation for the swings controls, and the swings are those controls which can be placed inside of the abstract windows tool components are the J-frames. Also, AWT, that is abstract window toolkit controls, have the different events classes. Now, these are different swing controls which we have listed here using the pictorial ways. For example, checkbox and radio box. That is the checkbox and radio buttons. Here we have the combo box. Here we can select from the list. Here we have text fields. Also we have J sliders. These are the combo box where we can select one of the items. This is the menu in fact. This is the label controls where it can help you to describe the windows. This is text area where you can write multiple line of text, that is multi-line text. This is a tooltip control. When you place a mouse over here, then the tooltip will be shown. This is the progress bar, and this is the file chooser controls where you can choose a certain files to load inside of the GUI. It is the color choosers where a user can select any one of the colors from this window, and it is the table controls where the information are displayed in the form of rows and columns in the tabular or in the relational databases. This is the tree controls, like when you want to display certain files in the directories or in the directories and having subdirectories, then it contains some files. This is the tree controls. This is split pen controls. The split pen is used to divide the windows into two or more than two parts, and this is the tab pens. The tab pens in fact provide you the click events which displays the section of the particular window. So these are different sort of the important controls using JDK 1.8, while GTK is Java Development Kit. Now, first controls in the AWT is called the JFrames controls, and it is also the part of the javax.swings.jframes package. And this class provides you the container which is inherited from the java.awt.frame class, where AWT is abstract windowing toolkit class. So Java is the top level class, AWT is the subclass of the Java, and frame is the final leaf class of the Java and AWT. So JFrames works like a main windows where components like labels, buttons, text fields are added to create the Java. Here is the examples of JFrames in Java, and the examples contains both the code or the programs and also the output of this program. First, we will define some important packages or libraries. The first package is import java.awt.flowlayout. This package provides you the layout of these controls over the GUI. That, for example, if you are using the grid layouts, then you will define the grid here and arrange these controls or place this control inside of that particular grids. If you have used the flow layout, this is in fact a layout where the first components added to the containers will be displayed first and next one will be displayed after the first control. If there is no space after the second control, the third control will be added to the next here to the down of this controls where there it is a label. Next is important package of the javax.swings.styles. It contains all the inside controls of the container, that is labels and buttons. Then we have declares a public class, class 1. Class 1 is our own class which is declared with the class keywords and it is a public. Public means it can be accessed outside of the this class can be accessed anywhere in the project. Now we have the public static void main function. Void main is a function which must be in every Java or C++ or C# programs, and there should be at least one function which is the void main function where the program execution is starting. First we have declared the frame object of jframe, frame, new jframe, and it is a constructor which takes the parameters of the strings which will display or set the title of the window. Here JFrame example is the title. Then we have to define the JPanels, panel new JPanels. The JPanels in fact is used to add the panel and the panel is inside of the JFrame. So then the JPanel will be added inside of the JFrame, then in fact the window will be created. So first we have created the frames and then the panels with using the JFrame and JPanels classes. And our layout is the flow layout, means that the first controls which will be added to this panel will be available on the first and second will be available on the seconds and so on. So all these controls will be available from first to second, third, and the order of these controls will be from the left to right. Then we have defined the label exactly like JFrame and JPanels. We have the JLabel class of the swings.starix package is equal to new JLabel JFrame by examples. This is the text that will be displayed inside of this label. Then we have JButton, button new JButton. It will create the buttons. Now button is the object and label is also the objects. Here we have used set text function of the buttons, button.setText buttons, while button is the strings which will defines the caption or the title over this button. Now we have added the label buttons inside of this panel and then panel is added inside in the frame. So first we have created frame, then panels and then two controls, and these two controls are added inside of the panel. Panel is added inside of the JFrame. When we have added JPanel inside of the frame, then frame.setSize 300, 300, it will create or set the size of the frames. First parameter is the x-axis and second one is the y-axis. So it will sets the x-axis pixels from left to right and y-axis pixel from top to bottom. Now frame.set default close operation, jframe.exit on close. This function will be executed when this close button will be clicked. So it closes the window. Frame.set visible true, it will display the frames. If we have passed the false parameters inside of the set visible function, then it will hide this window. Now dear students, we will execute this code inside of the Eclipse IDE so that you learn how to create the project inside of the Eclipse. So for this purpose, I will exit the slides. Now I have exited slides. I will click on the Eclipse. I have 2020 Eclipse IDE, which is the latest one, and this is free downloadable from the Eclipse websites. Now meanwhile, the Eclipse IDE will be available for us. It is the latest 2020 IDE, so I recommend you to use the latest IDE so that you can enjoy all features of this IDE. And it is also very much important IDE because when you use this IDE, then you can also create the UML diagrams inside of the Eclipse IDE. Now first I will click on files to create new projects. So here I will type the name of the projects. For example, the name of the project is example 1 and then click on next. Here the Eclipse IDE has created the folders for us. Click on finish. Now you can see that example 1 has been created. Here first you need to close the previous programs if you have already opened them. Please to close. Now right click on this src folder and click on the new and then select the class. So here I will add new class. Type the name of the class here. For example, name of the class is class 1. And now if you need the abstracts modifiers are final or package, then you can select, but this was the public class, so that's why I will select the public. And also if you need the another function, for example I need the public static void main function, so I selected or checked this public static void main function. Click on finish. When you click on finish, here Eclipse has created the class 1 for us. So class 1 is in fact a class which has been created here. Now go to the slides and select all this code and then transfer this code to the examples here that we have created here, public class 1. So now this code has been transferred here. Now all code has been added here inside of this example 1, the class 1 which we have created, and the code is also added to the class 1. Now click on this button to run the class 1. So just click here. This is the output that has been created by this code. So it contains one label and one buttons. So first we have defined JFrames and then the JPanels. Inside of the JPanel we have added two controls, JLabel and JButtons, and the text or label is the JFrame by example, and here button is the text or this button. So also then we have added these two controls inside of the panels, and the panel is added to the frames. We have defined the size of x-axis and y-axis in terms of different pixels to these frames, and also set location relatives to null means that here's the location where it will display will be by default and it is in the center of the screen. And when you click on this cross buttons, then the JFrame will be executed and it will be washed from the memory, and its visible is true. That means that keep appearing these frames. So click on the cross buttons, then the exit on close operation is called here. Now this is the examples of the JFrames. Now we will resume the slides. The next important control is the JLabel. We have already done the JLabel example in the previous JFrame example, but JLabel, as its name indicates, it gives you a text instructions or information on this GUI. For example, there are three different labels. So these labels help you to do some tasks or guide you that what is the other controls used for. So for example, input your names in correction in action J password fields. So this is controls which are in actions for the J password fields. So user ID, it is a label which is in fact in front of this text box, and also we have the password which is also a label. So it indicates that what information you are required to here for these two controls. This is the example of this the label controls. So we have defined two important packages. One is the java.awt.styles package, which is used for the JFrame class, and also java.swings packages, which is used by these two control JLabels. And then we have declared the class 1 extend JFrames, public class 1. This is the constructors. Inside of the constructor, we have declared the JPanels, contain new JPanels, and content.set layout, new flow layout. So free file layout will be added here. Then we have two labels, and labels are defined with the help of JLabel. JLabel, label 1, new JLabel, and this is the text that will be appeared on the labels. Here is another labels, and these are two objects which are declared by using JLabel classes. Now label.set to text mouse is pointed here. So when will point a mouse near this label 2, then it will display this text. Then we have added these labels inside of the content. So first we have added label 1, then we have also added another labels here, that is label 2. So you can also add another instance of the label as here's content.add label 2. Now this that sets content pin contents, means that the panel is added inside of the content pin. Now set title label demo, this will displays the title over this window. Set default close operation, jframe.exit on close, it will be executed when the cross button will be clicked, so it closes the window using this cross buttons. Also the size of this jframes is defined by this dot set size. This is the pointer variable which points to the current class object, and this dot set visible true means this will be appears. In the void main function we have just declares the object of the class 1. So jframe when new class 1. So this is a constructor here because all these informations are declared inside of the constructors. But another important controls is the JButtons controls in Java. The JButtons controls is used for clicking event. So it provides you the clickable events when the users want to do certain operation or functions, then the user will click on these two different controls. So the application results in some action when the button is clicked or pushed by the users, and it is inherited from the abstracts button class. So we will use JButton abstracts class, here's abstract button class. So from this class the JButton is inherited, because it means that abstracts button is the top level or the parent class of the JButton class. JButton enables a user to perform a click action when with the mouse. So by using a mouse, you can click here. Also, you can use the tab keys to focus and then press enter to click these buttons. And you can see that here is the click label inside of this button, and also we have a small icon. So this means that we can also add an icon and as well as the buttons here, but it is in fact in image. And also it can be just symbols by setting the title or the label over this button. This is the example of the JButtons. First, we will explain here the different codes here. You can see here are 4 different packages. Java.awt.starix package, awt.starix package is abstracts windowing toolkit package, and it is in fact used to define the JFrames. And also we will implement an event here using AWT package, and the event is in fact the button handlers implement action listeners. This is a special class. It is not our own class. It is in fact the built-in class button handler which establishes or declares the events here. Then we have the swings packages, javax.swings.starix. This package contains the existing controls like the JLabel and JButtons. Then we have toolkit package. Toolkit well defines the toolkit. The toolkit in fact is used to set the functions like here. You can see that here we will define some important function like toolkit.getDefault toolkit.beam. So these functions are implemented in this package. Now what this function do, we will explain it. So then we have declared the class 1 which is inherited from the JFrames, and this is the constructor of this class 1. Then we have added the panels, content new JPanels, content.set layout new flow layouts. So flow layout is added here. So then we have class 2 controls, JLabel and JButtons. These controls are in fact used for the creating of the GUI. And the J labels constructor contain a text. Please click this button. This will set a text over the label, and beep and colon operators. It will in fact set the text over the buttons. Button that set to tip text. Mouse is clicked here. When you point out a mouse near this buttons, then this will display mouse is clicked or click over this button. We will add these two different controls in the content. In fact, content is our JPanels. After adding these two controls in the JPanels, now our GUI is complete. And then we will add the panel inside of the content pane. Its title will be button demo and its default close operation is performs. That means the window will be closed when we will close on the cross icon over the window, that is exit on close. And it defined the size of the JFrames, that is 200 by 200 in terms of x-axis and y-axis pixel. Set visible true means that it will displays the window. Now here is button handler new button handler. It defines the handler class objects, which is the button handler, which creates the event. So handler is the object of the button handlers. We will in fact define this event also, because just we have declared this class, but this class is defined here. Then we have associated this handler event with the button btn.add action listener, private class button handler implement action listener. So here we have defined this event class, that is button handler, and it is implemented from the interface class action listener. Remember that when you are using certain inheritance, then you use the extends. But here we are just using this interface class, which is the action listener. So that's why we have used the implements keywords, which means that it implements the interface class. Now inside of this event handler class, we have declared a functions public void action perform action event e. So this will be a function which will be executed when this click event will be performed. And inside of this function, we have toolkit.get default toolkit.beep. So this will defines the beep sound when we will click on the button. Next is our void main function. So there must be a function in every Java program where the program execution is starting. So public stated void main string args. And inside of this void main function, we have just declares the object of the class ones, and this object is in fact the object of the JFrame, because you can see that class 1 is extended from the JFrames. So that's why here we have defined the JFrames. So JFrames win is equal new class 1. Now dear student, we will execute this code inside of our Eclipse IDE. For this purpose, I will exit the slides. So click on the exiting slides. So first I need to transfer this code inside of the Eclipse IDE. So first I will transfer this side of the code exactly in the previous example. So just change here. So that's why I have updated the previous example. Now similarly also transfer this code to the other side of the class here in your program. So paste it here under this first portion. So Control V. Now you can see that our program has been completely transferred here. So now we will execute this code to show our output. So click on this green buttons. Now this is the output which has been created by this program. So you can in fact you can resize this output. So here I have just resized. So when you click on this button, then the beep sound will be created. The beep sound is created by this line of code. So you are hearing the beep sound. So this is the event which has been created in Java to create the beep sound here. You can click on this cross button to exit the code. When you click on the cross button, so this line of code has been executed, which closes the JFrame. Now we will resume our slides. So this was the example of the difference. This is the output. Now, when you requires more than two buttons in your GUI, so then you have to also declare two different events or more than two events. So to implement multiple actions to the different J buttons, we need get action command functions are methods of action event class. So the get action commands returns the label of the button. So how you will differentiate that this particular button has been clicked. So the computer will in fact identify a certain label which is passed to the get action command. This is the examples. You can see here we have the beep sound exactly like this previous example, and also we have the exit button. When you click on the exit, then the computer will be closed here. So first we have declared different packages. Then we have declared our own class A. In the previous example, we have declared class 1. So when you will transfer this code to the Eclipse IDE, you need to change this class A to class 1. Here is the constructor. Inside of constructor, first we declare the panel. Then we have defined the flow layout of this window. That means that it will create the free layouts. Then we have declared two control J label and J buttons, and label 1 and button 1 are the objects, and on that two different control we have defined the labels. Please click these buttons and beep. Then also we have another buttons and its label is exits. So when you point out a mouse here on the first buttons, then it will display mouse is clicked here. Then we have added these three controls, labels and two buttons inside of the contents, and the content is also added here inside of the content pane, which is the window. And when it will be closed, then the exits on close parameter will be passed here, and set default close operation function will be called here. It defines the size of this window 200, 200. Set visible true means it will displays the window. And here, because we have two different buttons, so that's why we are declares two handlers. So both handlers are in fact declared with the help of button handler class. Button handler is equal new button handler. It is a constructor. So handler 1 and handler 2 are two objects. btn.add action is handler 1, and similarly btn2.add action is handler 2. So we have added both the object inside of the add action listener functions by using both btn1 and btn2 objects. Now here we will define only one button handler class, which is implemented from the action listeners interface class. That's why here we have just implements. Now public void action perform action event E, it defines the events of the function. When we will click on the button, then this event will be called. Now which button has been clicked, it is defined through the if else statement. So if e.get action command double equal to beep and colon here, and similarly if e.get action command exits, so these two are these labels which are defined here. So when you will click on the beep buttons and when you will click on the exit button, so these two line of code will be executed. If you click on the beep, then toolkit.get default toolkit.beep, so it will create the beep. And if e.get action command double exit, so then the system will be exited. So here system.exit means system will be exit, that means that program will be closed. Here we have void main function. In the void main function, we have just declared the object of the class A. So class A when is equal to new class A. When you declare these objects in the void main function, then automatically this constructor will be called. And when this constructor will be called, here this add action listener function will be called. So by using these two classes, and these two classes are defined here. So we need to define only one class because handler button handler is the one class and two different objects are declared here. So this will implements two buttons, and when you will click on buttons, beep buttons, then it will create the beep sound, and when you click on the exit buttons, then it will close the window or exit the window. Now, dear student, you have to execute this code through yourself so that you will get practice. Now, dear student, this is the end of the lectures. These are two important books for you. You should study these books. This book is Object-Oriented Programming and Java by Pooh, Danny Coyne, and Derek and Ashok Savanarata. So you should study this book, this one. And also, if you want to study the UML and Object-Oriented Design Foundations, you need to study these books, Understanding Object-Oriented Programming and the Unified Modeling Language. And this is very good book for the UML Professional Skills, book 1 by the Kindle editions. And also, if you have any question, you can ask the question through the email. My email is m.kadim@kust.edu.pk. I will wait for your question and I will respond you soon as I get them. Thank you very much.